it up. It's The Record Machine with your host, Jimmy Hall.
I don't remember much from back then. A cold empty church and a blood-stained hand. My brother spoke about angels and death, and I felt the world crushing in on my chest. Oh, never stop looking for your shooting star. Never let others decide who you are. A few years later, my father returned with a new wife and mother whose dreams had burned. And I, a reminder of love and regret, had to sing to myself while the sun slowly sets. Never stop looking for your shooting star. Never let others decide who you are. Now at 15, I'm here on my own. It just took 5 minutes and then they were gone. And I'll do what it takes, yeah, I will survive. And I'll leave this town with the love of my life. Never stop looking for your shooting star. Never let others decide who you are. Never stop looking for your shooting star. Never let others decide who you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer-songwriter John McDonough to the program. John, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous, man. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from outside of Chicago.
Oh, nice.
And where are you, actually?
I'm in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I've spent time in South Carolina, so lots of time, so we can talk about that. I bet it's very nice there right now.
Actually, it's cloudy.
Oh!
Yeah, it's been cloudy all morning. Last couple of days, we've been getting rain and stuff like that. It happens once in a while, but when it rains, it only rains for a little bit and then it stops. It's not like where it's constantly all day long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I went to Clemson and back in the day, and then I lived in Hilton Head for a few years.
Oh, wow.
And and then in Savannah. So I've spent a fair amount of time in South Carolina. Yeah.
So did you grow up in Chicago?
No. So my family, I was born here and we moved away when I was 6. And we moved back when I was 17, almost done with high school. Oh. And I just did not like it at all. I was a warm weather person and was not a fan of the Midwest. So The second I graduated, I got out as soon as possible. And I've been living mostly in the South or in Texas, and recently moved back here. My family never left. They've been here the whole time.
Okay.
And a couple of years ago, I made the big move back to this area. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. But so I guess at the tender age of 57, I was ready to come back. It only took me 40 years.
Yeah.
but it's good. But I have very good memories. Even when I wasn't living there, I mean, my family had a house in Hilton Head for many years, and so lots of good vacations there, and just lots of good memories in that area.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about your musical background. When did you get involved in music?
So I always loved to sing, and I always tell this story that I always the first album I ever bought at 10 was Harry Chapin's Taxi.
I could see that.
And I would go home and I would play it on my stereo and sing along at the top of my lungs, and I would do that with lots of singer-songwriter artists like James Taylor, Jim Croce, people like that. And I started taking guitar lessons when I was about 12, but I was also a big tennis player back then, and that was really my focus. And so I didn't get serious about music till I was in college, actually, at Clemson.
Okay.
And I actually played tennis at Clemson for a couple of years, but then I stopped. And then when I had all this free time for the first time, and I started taking guitar lessons, piano lessons, and voice lessons. So I got a little bit of a late start, but that is when I started being very serious about music.
Very cool. Now, you're also a doctor, correct?
Well, no, not a doctor. I did work as a psychotherapist.
Oh, okay.
So I have a master's in counseling. And so, but no, I never reached doctorate level. And I didn't want to, but yes, but I did work as a psychotherapist for about 15 years in Austin, Texas, as well as doing music on the side.
Now, would you say doing music on the side was your therapy away from your work?
It depended. Yes and no. I mean, yes, it was a nice, thing to do that was very different than therapy. But I also, I always took music very seriously, and if I wasn't, I always wanted to work harder at it than I felt like I had the time to. And, so I wouldn't say music was always relaxing for me or sort of a break, because it was always sort of a very intense thing for me as well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Would you say you got a lot of song ideas from some conversations you had over the years as a therapist?
That is a great question, and yes, that is very true. I've used a lot of I worked with kids for a long time, like teenagers and young adults, and oftentimes their stories would inspire me that they had come through what they had come through and were doing relatively well. And I would definitely use that as inspiration for my songwriting.
Nice. I believe every band or artist is influenced by someone. Who are some of yours?
You mean other musicians?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, even to this day, it's mainly, I would say, the singer-songwriters of the 70s. I can't get out of the 70s. It's people like James Taylor, Harry Chapin, Billy Joel, Elton John, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Those are just always the people that I sort of set the bar to, that they wrote these classic songs that still stand today. And I still listen to them, more than anyone else. There are, of course, over the years, I've loved U2, and I love James Bay, so there are more current artists over the years that I've really enjoyed and gotten into. But I always say, if I had to pick 5 CDs, if I was going to be stranded on an island, it would always come back to the singer-songwriters of the 70s.
Nice. Yeah, when I first heard your music, when Michael Stover had sent it over to me, totally get the Harry Chapin thing. And then I was like also thinking maybe a little Donovan in there as well.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that before, but that's nice. Yeah. And I like it too. I wouldn't say, I mean, I haven't always listened to him as much as the other people, but yeah, I can see that. I can see that now that you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your latest release, an EP titled We'll Answer the Call. What's the story behind this release?
Yes. And there's a true story. And in 2013, Daniel Brown wrote a book called The Boys in the Boat. So it's just an unbelievable true story of grit and perseverance. It's to sum it up more quickly, it's really about this one guy named Joe Rantz who just had a terribly difficult childhood. And, his mother died at 4. He basically had to start taking care of himself at 10 and was totally abandoned by his family at 15. And somehow through that, he had the strength and character and perseverance to stay in school, get through school. This was also during the Depression. So, I mean, there was no money, there was no nothing. And got himself into the University of Washington in Seattle. And the only way he could afford to stay there and in school was to be on the rowing team. And so he made the rowing team, and they went to Berlin in 1936 and won the gold medal against all odds.
Wow.
And the story just has so many layers because, the other kids that he rowed with, they were all just tough, good, hardworking kids that had come through the Depression on the West Coast. The coach has an interesting story. The boat builder who actually built his boats in the boathouse in the University of Washington, he has a fascinating story. And so this just has, again, it sort of comes back to my therapy, but like reading this, it just really moved me. And I will often, as we're talking about, but I read all the time. I watch documentaries all the time, and I'll often use those as inspiration to write songs as well. So I sat down and I was like, oh my God, this is taken me so much. I need to write a song about this. And then I realized there's too much here for just one song. So I decided to write 5 songs that sort of tell this story in my way of telling stories, which is songwriting. And so that's how this EP came about.
Very cool. Is that how you approach songwriting? You find something that interests you and then you just go with it?
Yeah, and sometimes, songs are about me, but I always say that, my life is pretty boring in a good way. There's not a lot of drama. And, so there's only, I sort of run out of things to say. But, sometimes I'll write about me when something happens that I feel is more worthy or more that I feel I need to sort of digest through songwriting. But normally, yeah, it's when I see something or read something that I just find really moving and inspirational, and often something that I would never experience myself. And obviously, I cannot go back in time, and I'll never win a gold medal in the Olympics. And so often it's something that I will never experience myself that also really captivates me. And if I feel like it's enough, if it's worthy enough, then it'll motivate me to write the song, but also sort of to tell the story, and sort of to share the story of someone who I feel their story deserves to be told.
There are tons of stories out there that you could have told. What made you decide to tell the story of Joe Rantz?
I think, I think again, it was something about his perseverance, as a kid, the things he went through, and somehow keeping it all together and making it through that and not being totally derailed. And also, like I said, all the layers of stories. Like I said, even the coach has an unbelievable story. The boat builder has an unbelievable story, and they all get woven together in this one few years of time. And also, the book was very fascinating because I'm a huge history fan and a big World War II fan. And as this was going on in Seattle and in America, the Depression and the 1930s and all that stuff, all the gross stuff was going on in Germany. And so in the book, it sort of weaves the two together. And so there's a lot of European and Germany history in the book as well. So it's sort of, and I'm a big sports person, and we're talking about the Olympics. So it had just, everything I'm interested in was sort of in this one true story.
So it kind of checked off all the boxes then.
It did. It definitely checked off all the boxes times 100. Yes.
Now, you did more than just read the book, write a concept album. You actually went and saw that boat in person, correct?
That's right. So the boat that they actually won gold in and used to qualify for the Olympics in America, the boat was built for that time. So it was built in like 1932. Like I said, right there in the boathouse at the University of Washington. No, I'm sorry. It was built in around 1935. And after the Olympics, it was used by the school. It was donated, and other schools used it. But luckily, like in the 60s, they got it back and they restored it, and it's beautiful, and it's hung up in their boathouse now, and it's just a beautiful piece of art, and so yes, I felt like I just really had to go there and see this boat, and so I flew out to Seattle to see it, and it was a very moving experience. Knowing who sat in that boat and knowing how the boat had traveled to Germany and won gold against all odds, it was well worth the trip. And the last song on the CD, on the EP, is actually told from the viewpoint of the boat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Now, are any of the relatives of the persons involved in this story aware that you are telling this story through song?
Yes, actually, Joe Rantz's daughter still lives in the Seattle area, and I've sent her. We've been in contact with a few emails over the years, not much, but when I finished the EP, I reached out to her again, told her what I had done, and luckily she was very moved and honored by it, and I sent her a couple copies, and she loved it, and so it's been really cool to connect with her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun to feel. And like I said, it hasn't been a lot. It's just been a few emails, but to feel that 1 degree of separation from Joe Rantz, has just been also very cool for me.
Now, I've noticed on your YouTube page, you put up a video for one of the songs on the album. Now, will you do a video for every song on the album and kind of like tie it into one story at some point?
Yeah. I've thought about that, and I'm not sure. I have to see. Videos are tough, especially with a bit of a limited budget. And so I think like the 4th song on the CD, "Will Answer the Call," is that song really tells the story of them qualifying for the Olympics on the East Coast and then going to Germany and winning the gold. That one I would love to. I wish I had $1 million budget and I could make a video for that, with rowing and teams but I don't know. That one's going to be tough. So we'll see. I'm sort of taking it song by song and single by single.
What about "We'll Answer the Call," the play?
That would be awesome. And the other thing that's happening that I've been trying to. George Clooney is directing the movie version of this right now as we speak in England, and I've been trying to get the music to him and at least get him aware that I've done this. And this was not in response to him doing the movie. I made this actually. I wrote these songs and made the CD before I even knew he was doing that.
Right.
But I'm having trouble getting through to him, as you can imagine.
Of course.
So I keep hoping somehow he becomes aware of it, because I would just like him to hear it. If there was some way we could use it in the movie or use it in the final credits, I would be so honored with that. But right now I'm just having trouble finding a way to get through to him. So
maybe try to go through his wife.
Go through his wife, did you say?
Yeah.
I did. I sent it. She has a foundation where she does a lot. She's a lawyer, and she has a foundation where she does a lot of charitable work, and I sent it to her.
Nice.
And I've sent it to a bunch of different people. I sent, he has a business partner. He has his own studios. He has a business partner, and I sent it to him and his wife, and as many avenues as I can think of. And so I'm hoping somehow, it just hasn't gotten through to them yet. But as of yet, I've heard nothing back. So,
well, hopefully you will. I think it's a great story, and I think it's a great album.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Over the years, you've released several albums and played over 500 gigs. You've appeared on national radio, and you've also been nominated for Album of the Year by the Josie Awards, and also Blues and Roots magazine. What's it like knowing that your music is appreciated like that? Is it rewarding for you to know that your hard work is paid off?
It is. I'm not going to lie. And when people say, oh, that stuff doesn't matter, I'm like, well, it does matter. I mean, and it matters in a way that, it's good to know that people are enjoying what I'm doing and that it's having some type of impact. And that it's good enough that it's moving people, and so it matters to me in that way, that I know like what I'm doing is good enough that it's having some type of impact in moving people.
Awesome.
It's definitely a bit of validation, especially in an industry that's so tough and you can feel like you're sort of getting lost in the shuffle, so when those moments happen, it's really validating and motivating.
Very cool. I understand you have a small RV named Roxy. Any plans to take her out on a tour?
I do. I mean, I have in the past, and I loved it. I had so much fun. And then of course COVID hit, so it's been a couple years since I've done anything, but it looks like things are finally getting back to normal. So I'm going to start doing that again. And I think I might plan something big for the spring, because obviously, it takes a lot of, you can't just put something together in a few weeks. It takes, you have to plan out a long time in the future. So, and I'm thinking in the spring, and one of the reasons I moved here also was because I really wanted to be closer to the East Coast and tour the East Coast. I feel like my music will go over better there than it was in the West or Southwest. Uh-huh. And so, so I'm just very excited that it looks like COVID is finally behind us for the most part, and I can get back to that.
Now, is Roxy a one of those Volkswagen buses or something like that?
No, it's a step up from that. So it's like on a Sprinter van, if you know what that is. Uh-huh. And so it's small. Like I can park it in a normal spot. I mean, if it's tight, but I can do that. But it's got a little bathroom and a little kitchen and a bench that folds out into a bed. And so I can live in it, and I wouldn't want to live in it for real long, but I can live in it for 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'm happy to come home. But it's got the tanks and running water and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
It's really cool, and it's really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you have a website you'd like to promote?
I would love to, yeah. So it's johnmcdonoughlive.com. And I know that's a mouthful. And so I did one thing to make it easy for people. Mm-hmm. If I made a Twitter account for the sole reason, and my Twitter is John M Live. And if you go there, the very first, the pinned tweet is all my links. A link to my website, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. And that makes it easy for people because, like I said, I know John McDonough Live is a mouthful and sort of hard to spell. So if you go to John M Live, you'll see links to all my social media, and you can pick and choose where you want to follow me. Very cool. Now, is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today? No, I guess well, first of all, thanks for having me. This has been really fun. You're welcome. And I was just say, I never ask people or my fans for money. I don't do a Patreon or anything. I don't like that stuff. I always just ask that if you like my music, please share it with people. Tell your friends and tell your family about it, and because that's sort of the best way to get it out there at this point. I think is just if you like it, share it with them. Hopefully they'll like it. They'll share it with people, and that's how it can sort of spread and grow. Absolutely. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your story and your music with us. It's been great. Thank you for having me. And anytime you got something you want to promote and you want to come back on, let's stay in touch, all right? Hey, that sounds great. And you know what? Maybe I haven't been to Clemson in a long time, and I want to go back. And maybe I can do a show in Myrtle Beach, and we can hook up in person.
Absolutely, that would be great. I would love to do that.
That would be really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's stay in touch. All right.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
All right. You take care, buddy.
Okay. You too.
Bye-bye.
The days are getting shorter now. I don't get out as much anymore. The boys are married with families now. Outside the oak tree still grows. Point me east, let me look out on the water. That's where I spent my best days. Point me east, let me look out on the water. Point me east for the rest of my days. I love the summer after the rains. Everyone comes around in May, and we remember the glory and the pain, and talk of how we'd do it all again. Point me east, let me look out on the water. That's where I spent my best days. Point me east, let me look out on the water. Point me east for the rest of my days. Point me east for the rest of my days. Let me look out on the water. That's where I spent my best days. Point me east, let me look out on the water. Point me east for the rest of my days. Point me east for the rest of my days.